This product isn't for you. You know, I've been hearing that a lot lately. But most of the people that say it, they're wrong. To understand that, though, we have to go back. So pull up a chair, have a seat at the table, and whether you're a button mash hack and slash controller bash, or a meeple moving mastermind of maps, mats, and minis, if you ruffle at the awful ruffle shuffle scuffle, or if you're a click clack, pick attack, number ball luck sack, we're all here for the same reason. I'm Jake. Let's talk games. So let's begin with a bit of a history lesson. Back when I first started playing Magic, every year was a new block. They had a big set, two small sets, and then a wild card release. Sometimes that was a core set, sometimes it was something else. It varied. But what ended up happening is that new players that came to Magic would play within that block. They'd buy the new cards, they'd build decks from those cards, and over a period of 2 years, they would have a complete standard deck that they could take to any local game store and play in their Friday Night Magic tournament. Now, over time, those cards would rotate out of standard, and then those players, if they still wanted to use those cards, became extended players. And the Magic community grows. We had multiple formats, and people that had been playing for a very long time played in Type 1 or Type 1.5, and people that were new to the game played in Type 2 or Standard. But something changed. Wizards of the Coast realized that a lot of the people that play Magic play casually. And they play other formats. They make up their own formats. And in 2011, we saw the first release of a product supporting those casual play-at-home formats, with the release of the Commander decks. Now, you might expect that this would be met with joyous applause, but we're Magic players, remember? And a lot of people complained. And it wasn't necessarily about what you'd think. Everyone was generally excited to have the ability to buy a good starter Commander deck. Now, whether that was to bring other people into the game or to just inspire new brewing for themselves. Personally, I was excited to have a Sultai commander beyond one mediocre dragon. But the cool thing about these decks is that they had new cards in them. Every pre-constructed deck up until that point was made of reprints. Most of the time, it was mostly cards from the set that those precons were tied to, with a few cards from maybe the bigger set that came out previous. But these Commander decks had new cards. And that upset people. They were saying Wizards was selling individual cards directly to consumers, a guaranteed list, and you could pay to get the good stuff that was in here. It might sound familiar. Those complaints began in 2011, and to some extent, these Commander decks were the first secret layers. And beyond that, people were upset because a precon like this was $10 to $12. Sometimes you could find them a lot cheaper than that. So for 60 cards, you're spending $10. So for 100 cards, it was 40 or 45. It would go even higher than that depending on where you bought it. They were charging a premium for new product, a premium for these never-before-seen cards. And a lot of those cards are still used today. And if we look at the cards that release after those initial Commander decks and the cards that released before, I think it represents a turning point in Wizards of the Coast making different products for different groups of people. Because before this product, before they released Commander decks, anyone that wasn't playing Standard was picking up the pieces. You were trying to use old cards in new ways and scraping Standard for anything that might be used in Extended. Think about the cards that are in Modern Horizon sets, tailor-made for that format. Up until that point, Modern was a shadow of Standard, just like Extended was a shadow of Standard. And it was always an underrepresented format. With products specifically made for specific formats, you're actually including more people in the hobby. So now I want to think back to the statement, this product isn't for you. Because frequently, that's fair. I think there's a lot of products that Wizards of the Coast makes every year that aren't for me. Some of them I buy anyways. But I think to fairly assess that, we need to ask ourselves, what am I looking for? What interests me about Magic the Gathering? Because personally, I like the style. I love secret lairs with new weird art, interesting frames and borders, and classic artists that do things in new ways. I love the fact that they went back to the old Vanguard art on some of the Mystery Booster 2 cards. Those products are for me. But the reality is, I'm not going to be able to afford that Urza Lord High Artificer, as cool as I think it is. And some people that are more interested in the financial viability and the collectability of the game, you see analyses on every secret lair that comes out about whether you make your money back when you buy the cards. You see a lot of people upset that the secret lairs are going back to a limited availability, buy it while you can model. But there's people that really enjoy that. And I think for those people, that's what interests them about Magic the Gathering. And when we look at new products, I think we need to recognize that there is an audience for it. There's a lot of people I run into that started playing the game because of the Fallout cards. Or they only bought into Magic because Bloomborough has cute animals and they wanted to play as a magical raccoon. Magic's a big hobby, and I think we all start playing for different reasons, and we all have different products that appeal to us. So I would just encourage you to take a second and think about the real amount of products that are coming out and being released specifically for you. Think about the things that interest you in the game. And compare that to the original cadence of 4 releases per year. Are you getting a quarterly release of Magic cards that you enjoy personally? Maybe that's ancillary products that aren't an entire set. Silly one-off things like the unsets. Maybe it's exterior lore, story, style, Vorthos type things. I think Wizards of the Coast is trying very hard to support the broad community that we have in Magic the Gathering. And I think it's really cool the different types of cards and products that they've made. And looking back, there are definitely products that weren't for me. Modern Masters did not get me into playing Modern. And Secret Lairs didn't make me a financially minded consumer. I just thought they're cool. And I thought this was a good opportunity to get Ulamog and Kozilek out of a pack, because I didn't have that opportunity the first time. I really like all of the products that Wizards of the Coast makes, and I fully accept the fact that many of them are not for me. And I think that's okay. And I think if we take a minute to separate the dollars from the gameplay, we can buy the fun of Magic for practically nothing. But the game's about more than that. And the products that released are about more than that. Thanks for watching.